I still remember that cold evening like it happened yesterday. The air outside was heavy with winter's breath, but inside my tiny apartment, it was even colder, not because of the temperature, but because of what was happening inside my mind. That was the evening I faced a mirror and saw a version of myself I could no longer tolerate. I was broke. Not just financially, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally. At 32 years old, I was working a dead-end job, drowning in debt, and living paycheck to paycheck. My friends were moving ahead in life, buying homes, traveling the world, building businesses. And there I was, frozen. The worst part? I wasn't dumb. I wasn't lazy. I had potential. But I was stuck in the cycle that traps millions of people every single day. Wake up, go to work, pay bills, complain, sleep, repeat. That night, something in me cracked. Or perhaps it was born. I looked into my own eyes through the reflection. My voice barely escaped my lips, but I whispered the words that would become the foundation of everything that followed. This isn't who I am supposed to be. Hashtag the hidden code of millionaires. What you're about to hear is not some overnight success story. There are no secret hacks or get-rich-quick schemes. This is the raw, brutal, honest journey of how I rewired my entire existence. How I studied, observed, and eventually adopted the habits that separate millionaires from the rest of the world. You see, I wasn't born into wealth. I didn't have rich parents. No trust fund. No secret inheritance waiting for me. I had to build everything from the ground up. And if you stay with me through this entire journey, you'll not only understand the habits that made me a millionaire, but you'll also see how you can apply them in your own life starting today. Hashtag the first lesson. Accountability. Most people never become wealthy because they never take ownership of their failures. For years, I blamed everything outside myself. The economy. My boss. My parents. My education. My lack of connections. It was always someone else's fault. But millionaires don't think like that. Millionaires are ruthless about accountability. The moment I realized that I was responsible for every dollar I did or didn't have was the moment my transformation truly began. It was no longer about what the world was doing to me. It was about what I was doing, or failing to do. I started keeping what I call my brutal truth journal. Every night, I'd write down the following. What actions did I take today that moved me closer to wealth? What actions did I take that moved me further away? What excuses did I make today? What would a millionaire have done in my place? This simple, painful practice forced me to confront the ugly truth. I had been lying to myself for years. Hashtag the second lesson. Control your inputs. Your mind is like a sponge. And up until that point, I was soaking in garbage. Negative news, gossip at work, complaints from broke friends, social media comparison traps. I realized millionaires guard their minds like Fort Knox. I made a radical decision. I went on a mental diet. No news, no social media scrolling, no toxic conversations, no entertainment that didn't fuel my growth. Instead, I flooded my brain with books, podcasts, courses, and mentors, even virtual ones I'd never meet in person. I studied self-made millionaires obsessively. Their habits, their thinking, their routines, their failures, their recoveries. Soon, my thoughts started to shift. My language changed. My focus sharpened. Your external world always reflects your internal world. If you want to build wealth, you must first rebuild your mind. Hashtag the third lesson. Master your time. Time is the currency of the wealthy. The poor trade time for money. The middle class trades time for comfort. The rich buy time to create more wealth. I audited my days like a forensic accountant. How much time was I wasting? How much time was I investing? I started waking up at 4:30 a.m. Not because it's magical, but because it gave me uninterrupted hours to build the foundation of my future while the rest of the world slept. Every morning, I followed a strict routine. 1. Silence, 10 minutes of reflection or meditation. 2. Reading, 30 minutes minimum. 3. Writing, journaling and planning. 4. Learning, online courses, studying wealthy individuals. 5. Execution, the most important task of the day, done first. This wasn't easy. It was lonely. Friends stopped calling. Some mocked me. Others worried I was becoming obsessed. But obsession is the doorway to mastery. Hashtag the 4th lesson, the power of micro-disciplines. Most people want massive change overnight. Millionaires know the truth. Wealth is built through tiny disciplines, ruthlessly repeated. Read 10 pages a day, save 10% of every dollar, invest automatically, eliminate one bad habit at a time. These small, consistent actions compounded into results I couldn't even imagine when I started. Think about it. 10 pages a day equals 3,650 pages a year equals dozens of life-changing books. $10 a day saved equals $3,650 a year equals, with compounding, turns into serious money. One new skill a month equals 12 new abilities every year. Small hinges swing big doors. The 5th lesson. Build high-income skills. At first, I didn't focus on making millions. I focused on becoming valuable. Millionaires don't chase money, they attract it by solving problems that others can't. I invested every spare dollar I had into learning. Sales, negotiation, copywriting, marketing, leadership, public speaking. Each skill became a tool in my wealth-building arsenal. Soon, opportunities one never dreamed of started appearing. People paid for my expertise. I started side businesses. I negotiated better deals. I attracted powerful mentors. Hashtag the 6th lesson, your circle is your future. You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. That truth hit me like a punch to the gut. Most of my friends were broke, negative, comfortable, complacent. I loved them, but they weren't going where I was going. Millionaires curate their environment. I started seeking out business owners, investors, entrepreneurs, growth-minded individuals. Sometimes I couldn't access them directly, so I read their books, watched their interviews, studied their failures. Slowly, my circle changed. And so did my standards. Hashtag the 7th lesson, delayed gratification. One of the most powerful habits of millionaires is their ability to wait. While others bought new cars, I drove my old beater. While others took vacations, I reinvested every dollar. While others upgraded their lifestyle, I upgraded my assets. Millionaires play the long game. They sacrifice short-term pleasures for long-term freedom. I developed what I called the freedom equation. Sacrifice today plus smart investment equals freedom tomorrow. The 8th lesson, ruthless focus. Most people fail because they chase too many things. Millionaires narrow their focus. I chose one industry, one business model, one set of skills, one long-term goal. For 5 years I said no to 99% of opportunities that came my way. That discipline allowed me to build something solid, scalable, and sustainable. Hashtag the 9th lesson, financial intelligence. Earning money is one thing. Keeping it and multiplying it is another. Millionaires study taxes, investments, asset protection, debt management, business structures. I devoured books on personal finance, took courses on investing, hired advisors smarter than me. Every dollar I made had a job. Save, invest, grow, protect. I didn't just want to get rich. I wanted to stay rich. Hashtag the 10th lesson, serve before you take. True wealth isn't just about money. Millionaires build businesses that serve people. Every product I created, every service I offered, every deal I negotiated, I asked one simple question: how does this help others? The more people I helped, the more wealth flowed into my life. Wealth is a byproduct of value creation. And so, that cold night when I stared into the mirror wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning. Over the next 9 chapters, I'm going to take you even deeper into each of these lessons. I'll share my biggest failures, my breakthroughs, my strategies, my setbacks, and my victories. By the end of this journey, you won't just understand how millionaires think, you'll start thinking like one yourself. Because if I could do it, coming from where I started, you absolutely can too. When I crossed the first 6 figures in my bank account, I thought I had finally made it. But what I learned next shattered every illusion I had about wealth. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Making money is not the same as understanding money. Many people earn good salaries and still live broke. Doctors, lawyers, executives, many of them live paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because while they learn how to make money, they never learn how to think like wealthy people. I was one of them. Until I discovered the difference between earning money and building wealth. This part of my journey forced me to confront the brutal truth about money. Truths most people are never taught. Truths that millionaires live by every single day. Hashtag the first shift. Money is a game you see. For most people, money is emotional. For millionaires, money is a game, with rules, strategies, and leverage. I still remember the conversation that opened my eyes. I had just started my first small business. I was making decent money, but I was overwhelmed by fear. Fear of losing it. Fear of spending it wrong. Fear of investing. One day, a mentor said to me, "You're playing checkers while the rich play chess." That sentence changed everything. The wealthy understand how cash flow works, how to use debt as a tool, how to multiply money through assets, how to protect wealth through legal structures. I realized I needed to stop being emotional about money and start thinking like a strategist. Hashtag the second shift. The income illusion. Society tells us that a high income equals success. Millionaires know better. It's not what you make that matters, it's what you keep, what you invest, and what you protect. Let me give you a painful example from my own life. When I finally started earning $150,000 a year, I felt rich. I upgraded my apartment. I bought a new car. I took expensive vacations. But after taxes, expenses, and lifestyle inflation, I was barely saving 5% of my income. I was working harder than ever, but I was still broke. The wealthy avoid this trap. They live by a different formula. Income investments equals expenses. In other words, they invest first and live off the rest. They don't wait to get rich to start investing. They invest to get rich. Hashtag the third shift. Assets versus liabilities. This single principle changed my life. I had always thought of wealth in terms of income. But millionaires focus on one thing: assets. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. Businesses, real estate, investments, intellectual property, royalties, equity. A liability is anything that takes money out. Cars, expensive homes, unless leveraged wisely. Consumer debt, lifestyle, inflation. When I looked at my finances through this lens, I was shocked. Almost everything I owned was a liability. Millionaires don't collect liabilities, they collect assets. That became my obsession: acquire income-producing assets. Hashtag the fourth shift. Mastering leverage. This was one of the hardest lessons to learn, because it required me to unlearn everything I was taught about hard work. Hard work is important. But hard work alone will never make you wealthy. Millionaires understand leverage. There are 4 kinds of leverage. 1. Time leverage. Hiring others to scale your time. 2. Money leverage. Using capital to generate more capital. 3. Technology leverage. Building systems that work while you sleep. 4. Network leverage. Surrounding yourself with people who open doors. For years, I tried to do everything myself. Then I hired my first employee. Then my second. I automated tasks. I outsourced. I built systems. Suddenly, my income detached from my hours worked. That's when my wealth started to compound exponentially. Hashtag the fifth shift. Taxes are your largest expense. This one hit me like a truck. When I earned my first big paycheck, I was stunned by how much went to taxes. Most people focus on earning more. Millionaires focus on keeping more. They learn how to structure businesses to minimize tax burdens. They invest in tax-advantaged assets. They use legal strategies to defer, reduce, or eliminate taxes. I spent months studying tax codes, consulting with CPAs, and restructuring my business entities. Every dollar I saved in taxes was another dollar working for me instead of the government. Hashtag the sixth shift. Scarcity versus abundance. I grew up believing money was scarce. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. You have to sacrifice to get ahead. But the wealthy live in a world of abundance. They understand that wealth is not a zero-sum game. More wealth for one person doesn't mean less for another. Wealth can be created. I shifted my mindset. I stopped envying success. I started studying success. I saw every problem as an opportunity to create value. This abundance mindset attracted partnerships, deals, and opportunities one never thought possible. Hashtag the seventh shift. Fear of loss. Fear keeps most people poor. Fear of losing money, fear of risk, fear of failure. Millionaires are not fearless. They manage fear differently. They understand risk. They calculate it. They prepare for it. But they don't let fear paralyze them. I lost money on some investments. I made mistakes. But I learned, adjusted, and grew stronger. Every loss became tuition for my education. Hashtag the eighth shift. Multiple streams of income. Before, I thought one strong job or business was enough. Millionaires think differently. They build multiple income streams. Primary business income, real estate, cash flow, dividend-paying investments, royalties, and intellectual property, consulting and speaking. I made it my mission to diversify. My first stream was my core business. Then I invested in real estate. Then I built digital products. Then I started consulting. Today, if one income stream dries up, the others continue flowing. This creates true financial stability. Hashtag the ninth shift. Investing in yourself. If you study any self-made millionaire, you'll see one common trait. They invest heavily in themselves. Courses, books, seminars, mentorship, coaching. When I was broke, I hesitated to spend $500 on a course. Millionaires will gladly invest $5,000, $10,000, or more to acquire knowledge. Because they know one secret: the highest ROI investment is in your mind. Every dollar I spent on my personal growth has paid me back tenfold, sometimes 100-fold. Hashtag the 10th shift. Legacy thinking. The poor think in terms of survival. The middle class thinks in terms of comfort. The wealthy think in terms of generations. They ask, how can I build something that lasts? How can my wealth serve others long after I'm gone? How can I teach my children to carry this forward? This shift changes every financial decision. They buy assets that appreciate. They build businesses that outlive them. They create trusts, foundations, and generational wealth structures. I started thinking beyond my lifetime. What kind of business could I build that would serve my family long after I'm gone? What lessons could I document for my children? That vision gave my work new meaning and power. The millionaire mind in action. After internalizing these shifts, everything changed. My anxiety about money vanished. My income exploded. My wealth multiplied. My confidence grew. My circle elevated. Because I wasn't just earning more, I was thinking differently. And that's what separates millionaires from everyone else. Not luck. Not privilege. Not intelligence. Mindset. In the next part of this audiobook, I'm going to take you deeper into the first millionaire habit that transformed my life: extreme ownership and ruthless accountability. Because no matter how much you learn, without radical ownership, nothing changes. And that, my friend, was where the real fire began. If I had to pick one habit, just one, that separates millionaires from the average person, it would be extreme ownership. This isn't a sexy topic. It doesn't sell courses. It's not something people like to hear. But without it, everything else falls apart. Extreme ownership means you take full responsibility for every outcome in your life, good or bad. It sounds simple. It's brutally hard. Let me take you back to where this began for me. Hashtag the day I stopped pointing fingers. I was sitting in a small coffee shop, frustrated beyond words. My business wasn't growing. My relationships were strained. My bank account was shrinking. My stress was through the roof. And like most people, I had my list of excuses. The economy was bad. My competitors were unfair. My employees weren't performing. My clients were difficult. My partner didn't understand. That's when an older man at the table next to me, someone I didn't know, leaned over and said quietly, "If you're waiting for them to fix it, you'll wait forever." At first, I was offended. Who was this guy to comment on my life? But those words stuck in my brain like a splinter. For days, I couldn't shake it off. If you're waiting for them to fix it, you'll wait forever. That single sentence forced me to face a painful truth. I was blaming everyone except myself. And that mindset was keeping me broke. Hashtag the hard truth about blame. Blame feels good in the moment. It lets you avoid responsibility. It protects your ego. It allows you to stay comfortable. But blame is a parasite. It feeds on your potential and leaves you weaker every time you indulge it. Millionaires don't blame. They don't blame the market. They don't blame their team. They don't blame bad luck. They don't blame their upbringing. They own it all. If something goes wrong, they ask, "How did I allow this? What can I do to fix it? What system did I fail to build? What skill am I lacking?" This is what I started to do. Every time something went wrong, I trained myself to say, "I own this." Hashtag the mindset shift. Control versus circumstance. Average people focus on circumstances they can't control. The news, politics, the economy, other people's actions. Millionaires focus on what they can control. Their thoughts, their actions, their skills, their habits, their responses. This shift gave me power. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, I created my own. Instead of hoping my clients would pay faster, I improved my contracts and invoicing systems. Instead of wishing my employees would perform better, I became a better leader and communicator. Instead of complaining about the competition, I studied them, learned from them, and found ways to outposition them. Hashtag extreme ownership. In business, let me give you a raw example. In my first year of serious business, I lost a major client that made up 40% of my revenue. At first, I was furious. They were unreasonable. They broke the contract. They were disrespectful. But when I applied extreme ownership, the conversation changed. I asked, why was I so dependent on one client? Why didn't I diversify earlier? Why didn't I build better contracts? Why didn't I set clearer expectations from the start? The answers were uncomfortable, but they made me stronger. I rebuilt my client acquisition system. I diversified my revenue streams. I hired better legal counsel. I improved my service delivery. Within 18 months, that loss became one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because I owned it. Hashtag extreme ownership in personal life. Extreme ownership isn't just about money. It applies to every area of life. Health, relationships, mental state, habits. At one point, I was overweight, tired, and stressed. My first instinct was to blame my busy schedule, my business demands, my metabolism. But the truth was simple. I was not prioritizing my health. I wasn't waking up early enough. I wasn't preparing healthy meals. I wasn't making time for the gym. I wasn't managing my stress. So I took ownership. I hired a trainer. I scheduled workouts like business meetings. I meal prepped on Sundays. I built morning and evening routines. Within a year, my energy doubled. My focus sharpened. My performance skyrocketed. Because I owned it. The psychological power of ownership. Here's the secret most people don't understand. Ownership creates freedom. When you blame others, you feel helpless. I can't control them. It's not my fault. There's nothing I can do. When you take ownership, you feel powerful. I can learn. I can adapt. I can fix this. This mindset attracts opportunities, partnerships, and wealth. People want to work with those who take responsibility. Because ownership breeds trust. Hashtag the discipline of self-awareness. Extreme ownership requires brutal self-awareness. Every night before bed, I asked myself 5 questions. 1. What did I do today that moved me closer to my goals? 2. What did I fail to do that I could have controlled? 3. Where did I make excuses today? 4. What can I improve tomorrow? 5. Who am I becoming? This daily habit forced me to stay honest with myself. Self-deception is the enemy of wealth. Millionaires face their flaws directly. They seek feedback. They welcome correction. They are always under construction. Hashtag the trap of victimhood. Society loves victimhood. It's comfortable. It wins sympathy. It attracts attention. But it's a death sentence for wealth. Victims say, "It's not fair. I don't have the same opportunities. Other people have advantages." Winners say, "Life isn't fair. I'll win anyway. I'll create my own opportunities. I'll build my own advantages." This mindset difference creates a gap that widens every year. Hashtag the ownership equation. Here's the formula I live by now. Extreme ownership plus relentless action equals predictable success. Most people want the second part, success, without committing to the first, ownership and action. Millionaires reverse the equation. First, they take ownership. Then, they execute relentlessly. Then, success follows. Not overnight. Not by luck. But inevitably. Hashtag ownership and relationships. This habit transformed my relationships too. In business, I owned my communication breakdowns. I took responsibility for unmet expectations. I led my team through challenges instead of blaming them. In personal life, I apologized without defensiveness. I sought to understand before reacting. I admitted my faults and worked on them. This made me a better leader, partner, and friend. Because people respect those who take responsibility, even for things that aren't fully their fault. Hashtag ownership builds unstoppable confidence. When you live with extreme ownership, something incredible happens. You stop fearing failure. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop obsessing over other people's opinions. Because you know, whatever happens, I'll handle it. That mindset is rare. But it's magnetic. It attracts investors, partners, clients, and opportunities. Because people trust those who trust themselves. Hashtag the final word on ownership. If you take nothing else from this audiobook but this one habit, extreme ownership, your entire life can transform. Your income, your business, your health, your relationships, your peace of mind. Because when you own your results, you gain the power to change them. Millionaires don't have perfect lives. They have ownership. And that makes all the difference. In the next part, I'll take you into the next core millionaire habit, relentless consistency. The habit that builds empires. This is where most people fail, and where millionaires quietly dominate. When people hear my story today, they love to focus on the highlights. The 7-figure businesses. The passive income. The investments. The freedom. They assume I had some breakthrough, some big lucky moment that made everything take off. But the truth is far more boring. And far more powerful. I became successful because I mastered one habit most people avoid, relentless consistency. Let me take you back to the early days, when nobody was watching. Hashtag the invisible work. In the beginning, nobody cheered for me. My family doubted me. My friends thought I was crazy. The market ignored me. The results came painfully slow. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise. While others slept, I worked. Writing emails that got no replies. Creating content that got no views. Making sales calls that got rejected. Studying skills that seemed too advanced for me at the time. Day after day. Week after week. Month after month. There was no applause. No immediate reward. This is the part of the journey most people quit. Because they misunderstand how success works. Hashtag the myth of motivation. Everyone loves to feel motivated. Everyone loves the rush of starting something new. But motivation fades. Millionaires don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. I had a simple rule: do the work, whether I feel like it or not. Motivation is emotional. Consistency is mechanical. Millionaires train themselves to become machines of execution. I call this the consistency engine. Hashtag the consistency engine. Here's how I built my consistency engine. 1. Fixed morning routine. Wake up at 4:30 a.m. 10 minutes silence or meditation. 30 minutes of reading. Review my goals. Execute my number 1 task first. 2. Daily non-negotiables: 1 sales activity, 1 content creation activity, 1 skill improvement activity, 1 system building activity. 3. Evening review journal: what worked, what failed. Plan tomorrow's top 3 priorities. Visualize tomorrow's execution. 4. Weekly review: track key metrics. Adjust strategies. Analyze failures without emotion. This system ran my life. Not feelings. Not inspiration. Not willpower. The system was stronger than my emotions. # the power of small daily wins: people overestimate what they can do in a week. They underestimate what they can do in a year. Here's how small consistent actions compounded. Writing 1 article per day equals 365 articles a year. Making 5 sales calls per day equals 1,825 calls a year. Reading 10 pages per day equals 3,650 pages a year. Investing $20 per day equals $7,300 invested yearly, compounding over time. Most people are searching for one big move. Millionaires stack thousands of small moves. Success is boring. But boring works. # the dip that destroys most people: there's always a dip. The excitement wears off. The results stall. The doubts grow. The temptations multiply. In my 3rd year of business, I hit the dip hard. Revenue flatlined. My audience wasn't growing. Competitors seemed to be passing me. I was tempted to pivot to something else. Try a shiny new business model. Blame the market. But I remembered what my mentor once told me. The dip isn't the end. It's the test. Millionaires push through the dip. Amateurs pivot at the first sign of struggle. # consistency versus intensity: average people chase intensity. 90-day challenges. Quick hacks. Overnight success. Millionaires chase consistency. Daily disciplines. Long-term compound growth. Systems that run for years. Intensity burns hot and dies fast. Consistency burns slow and lasts forever. When I committed to consistency, everything shifted. My audience grew. My revenue climbed. My skills compounded. My network expanded. Because I stayed when others quit. # the compound effect: the most powerful force in wealth is compounding. Not just money, but habits, skills, relationships, knowledge. 1 connection leads to 5 introductions. 1 article leads to thousands of readers. 1 investment leads to multiple returns. Every small, consistent action compounds invisibly, until it becomes unstoppable. I call this the invisible growth curve. At first, nothing seems to happen. Then, slowly, you see small wins. Finally, the curve explodes upward. Most people never reach phase 3, because they quit in phase 1 or 2. Millionaires endure long enough to ride the curve. # consistency builds identity: every action you take casts a vote for the person you are becoming. Every day you wake up early, you vote for, I am disciplined. Every day you sell, you vote for, I am a business builder. Every day you invest, you vote for, I am financially intelligent. Every day you read, you vote for, I am a learner. Identity compounds through consistency. Millionaires don't just do millionaire things. They become millionaires by identity, through repeated actions. # consistency kills excuses: when you live consistent systems, excuses die. I don't have time. But your calendar says otherwise. I'm not good at sales. But you make sales calls daily. I'm not lucky. But you create opportunities through action. Consistency gives you proof. Proof gives you confidence. Confidence creates momentum. And momentum is where millionaires live. The discipline of boredom: most people quit because success gets boring. Making calls. Writing content. Studying books. Tracking numbers. Millionaires embrace the boredom. They understand that mastery comes from repetition, not variety. Michael Jordan shot thousands of free throws. Warren Buffett reads for hours daily. Great salespeople role-play the same scripts. I embraced boredom as the price of greatness. And over time, what was once boring became addictive. Because I saw the results stack. Hashtag consistency attracts power. Consistency signals to the world. You are reliable. You are serious. You are predictable. You can be trusted. Investors trust consistency. Partners trust consistency. Clients trust consistency. Employees trust consistency. Millionaires become magnets for opportunity. Because everyone wants to partner with someone who shows up every single day. Hashtag the 5-year rule. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year. Millionaires think in 5-year blocks. When I made my first serious 5-year plan, everything changed. Year 1, build skills. Build network. Build consistency. Year 2, scale product. Increase visibility. Build small team. Year 3, expand marketing. Build systems. Diversify income streams. Year 4, acquire assets. Build brand authority. Build investments. Year 5, optimize. Protect wealth. Build generational structures. Today, I live in year 5 of that first plan. And it's even bigger than I imagined. Because I simply executed the plan daily. Hashtag the final word on consistency. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more inspiration. You need relentless consistency. In your work. In your habits. In your learning. In your relationships. In your investments. Millionaires are built in the silent, invisible, unsexy daily work. Do it long enough, and people will call you lucky. But you'll know the truth. In the next part, we'll dive into the next millionaire habit, skill stacking. How millionaires build unstoppable value because consistent work is only powerful when applied to the right skills. Let me tell you a harsh truth I wish someone had told me earlier. You don't get rich by being good at one thing anymore. Not in this era. In the old world, being a specialist was enough, the doctor, the lawyer, the accountant. But today, the people who rise to the top, who build businesses, wealth, freedom, they have what I call skill stacks. They are dangerous not because they're world-class in one skill, but because they're very good at many skills that amplify each other. Millionaires today are like Swiss Army knives, not one giant blade, but a combination of many sharp tools. This realization changed my entire trajectory. The wake-up call. I still remember my early business days. I was a pretty good salesman. I could talk, persuade, and close deals. But sales alone wasn't enough. I struggled to generate leads. I had no clue how to market. My offers weren't irresistible. My online presence was weak. My negotiations left money on the table. Every weakness in my skill set was costing me real money. I was leaking opportunity everywhere. And I didn't even know it. That's when I made a decision. I will build a lethal skill stack. One that makes me valuable in any room, in any market, under any condition. Hashtag the Millionaire Skill Stack formula. After studying hundreds of self-made millionaires, I noticed a pattern. Their core skill stacks often included 1. Sales 2. Marketing 3. Copywriting 4. Negotiation 5. Leadership 6. Public speaking 7. Financial literacy 8. Networking 9. Problem solving 10. Decision making under pressure. I made it my personal mission to level up each one. Let's break them down. Hashtag skill number 1. Sales. The master skill. Nothing builds wealth faster than knowing how to sell. Selling yourself. Selling your ideas. Selling your products. Selling your vision. At first, I was terrified of sales. The rejection. The pressure. The confrontation. But I forced myself to study it like a science. I read dozens of sales books. I role-played closing scenarios. I recorded and analyzed my sales calls. I hired sales coaches. I studied master closers. Over time, sales became natural, not because I was born for it, but because I trained for it. If you can sell, you'll never go broke. Hashtag skill number 2. Marketing. Attraction over chase. Sales closes deals. Marketing brings the deals to you. At first, I was chasing every lead. Cold calling. Cold emailing. Desperate networking. Then I learned how to attract business, content creation, brand positioning, paid advertising, funnel building, email marketing. Suddenly, leads started coming to me. Millionaires understand. Inbound beats outbound when you build trust. The combination of sales and marketing created predictable income. Skill number 3, copywriting. Selling with words. Every millionaire I know is dangerous with words. Because words sell, in ads, on landing pages, in emails, in proposals, in negotiations. Copywriting allowed me to write offers that converted, craft sales pages that printed money, send emails that built loyalty, position myself as an authority. I studied direct response legends like Dan Kennedy, Gary Halbert, and David Ogilvy. The psychology of persuasion. Human buying behavior. Words make you money. Weak words cost you millions. Hashtag skill number 4, negotiation. Keep more of what you earn. Millionaires know how to ask for more. Structure better deals. Protect downside risk. Create win-win outcomes. I used to fear negotiations, afraid of offending, losing deals, or sounding greedy. Then I studied it like a science. Tactical empathy. Anchoring. Framing. Silence. Timing. Today, negotiation skills alone have added 6 figures to my bottom line, simply by asking better, structuring smarter, and negotiating harder. Hashtag skill number 5, leadership. Building multiplication. At a certain point, you hit the limit of what you can do alone. Millionaires build teams. Leaders create leverage. Hiring. Delegating. Coaching. Inspiring. Holding standards. I wasn't born a leader. I made hiring mistakes. I micromanaged. I avoided tough conversations. But I learned to hire slow, fire fast. Coach instead of control. Lead by example. Set crystal clear expectations. Leadership made my businesses scalable. Hashtag skill number 6, public speaking. Influence at scale. At first, I hated speaking. Sweaty palms. Racing heart. Stumbling words. But I realized, leaders speak. Millionaires present. Whether pitching investors, teaching clients, selling from stage, leading teams, public speaking is influence multiplied. I practice relentlessly. Toastmasters, online webinars, live events, YouTube content. Speaking built authority and attracted high-level opportunities. Hashtag skill number 7, financial literacy. Making money work. Making money is one skill. Keeping and growing it is another. Millionaires understand cash flow. Read financial statements. Master taxes. Structure legal protections. Invest wisely. I studied personal finance like my life depended on it. Profit and loss statements. Cash flow forecasting. Debt structuring. Tax optimization. Financial literacy protects and multiplies everything you build. Hashtag skill number 8, networking. Proximity is power. Millionaires are rarely lone wolves. They surround themselves with mentors, partners, investors, industry leaders. I forced myself into higher rooms, paid masterminds, industry events, private dinners, direct outreach. One introduction can change your financial life forever. Hashtag skill number 9, problem solving. Becoming a solution machine. Millionaires get paid to solve problems others can't. I trained myself to stay calm under pressure, analyze situations clearly, think in frameworks, find root causes, build scalable solutions. Problem solvers become indispensable and highly paid. Hashtag skill number 10. Decision making under pressure. Speed matters. Millionaires gather key data, trust experience, calculate risk, act decisively. Hesitation kills opportunity. Indecision bleeds cash flow. I developed mental models to simplify decisions, worst-case analysis. Opportunity cost. Asymmetric risk-reward. 80-20 rule. Over time, fast, clear decisions compounded into massive wins. How to build your skill stack. Here's the formula I followed. 1. Pick one core skill first, for me, sales. 2. Layer one adjacent skill at a time, marketing, copywriting, negotiation. 3. Study relentlessly, books, courses, mentors, practice. 4. Apply. Beat theory. 5. Teach what you learn, teaching cements mastery. 6. Stack over years, not weeks. Millionaires build lethal skill stacks over years, not in weekend workshops. Hashtag the power of unfair advantage. Here's the key. Each new skill amplifies the others. Sales plus copywriting equals higher conversions. Marketing plus public speaking equals massive reach. Financial literacy plus negotiation equals bigger profits. Leadership plus networking equals scalable teams. This creates an unfair advantage. While others specialize narrowly, you become versatile, adaptable, and dangerous in any market. That's how millionaires build empires. Hashtag the final word on skill stacking. You don't need to be world-class at any one skill. You need to be dangerously good at multiple skills that multiply each other. Focus. Stack. Apply. Repeat. Over time, your value in the marketplace becomes undeniable. The world pays you in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems you can solve. The more valuable you become, the more wealth you attract. In the next part, I'll reveal the next critical millionaire habit, strategic risk. How millionaires take calculated bets that multiply wealth because avoiding risk keeps you broke. Managing risk strategically builds empires. If you were to trace every major breakthrough in my wealth journey, every leap forward, every income jump, every sudden explosion of opportunity, you'd find one common denominator. I took a risk. But not just any risk. Not reckless, impulsive, all-or-nothing gambles. Strategic risk. Most people misunderstand risk entirely. The broke fear all risk. The reckless chase every risk. The wealthy engineer calculated risk. This single habit, understanding, managing, and leveraging risk, is one of the deepest separating lines between millionaires and the masses. Let me take you inside exactly how I learned to approach risk like the wealthy. Hashtag the first real risk that changed everything. The very first time I took a serious risk, it wasn't some investment or business deal. It was quitting my secure job. I had a steady paycheck, health benefits, predictability, comfort. But I was miserable. The longer I stayed, the deeper the pain. The idea of building my own thing terrified me. What if I failed? What if I went broke? What if I embarrassed myself? But deep down I knew. The risk of staying stuck is greater than the risk of starting. Millionaires constantly weigh the risk of action versus the risk of inaction. That decision to leave launched everything you see today. Hashtag the reality of risk. It's everywhere. Here's what I learned. There's no such thing as no risk. A job is risky, you can get fired. A business is risky, markets change. Investing is risky, markets drop. Doing nothing is risky, inflation, stagnation. The question isn't whether you'll face risk, it's how you manage it. Millionaires aren't fearless. They're risk scientists. Hashtag the 4 types of risk millionaires manage. Through studying hundreds of wealthy individuals, I discovered they evaluate risk in 4 key categories. 1. Financial risk, loss of capital. Cash flow disruptions. Debt exposure. 2. Reputational risk, brand damage. Loss of trust. Public perception. 3. Operational risk, business systems failing. Vendor or partner failures. Internal team breakdowns. 4. Opportunity cost risk, missing better opportunities. Staying too long in bad situations. Wasting prime years of action. Millionaires evaluate these constantly, sometimes daily. I built the habit of risk mapping, looking at every major decision through these four lenses before acting. The risk management framework I use when faced with a risky decision, I run it through my personal framework. 1. Identify worst case scenario. What's the absolute worst that could happen? 2. Probability assessment. How likely is that worst case to occur? 3. Mitigation plan. How can I prevent or reduce the chance of failure? 4. Recovery plan. If it does fail, how will I recover? 5. Asymmetric upside. Does the potential reward far outweigh the risk? If the upside is massive and I can survive the downside, I move forward. This is how millionaires grow fast without blowing up. Asymmetric risk. The millionaire's secret weapon. The average person thinks like this. If I risk $1, I might lose $1 or make $2. Millionaires think like this. If I risk $1, I might lose $1, but I might make $100. This is called asymmetric risk. Small downside. Massive upside. Starting a business with low startup capital. Investing in scalable digital products. Taking equity instead of salary. Partnering on profit shares rather than fixed fees. I built my wealth by stacking dozens of asymmetric bets. Some failed. Many succeeded. The winners far outweighed the losers. Small bets versus all-in gambles. Another key difference. The broke swing for the fences once, hoping for a home run. The wealthy place small, calculated bets across multiple plays. I built wealth not by going all in, but by placing multiple scalable bets, new product launches, content creation experiments, new ad channels, joint ventures, small real estate deals. Each bet was survivable if it failed. Collectively, they stacked into a fortune. The emotional side of risk. Managing risk isn't just logic. It's emotional mastery. Fear of loss. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of regret. Millionaires learn to separate emotion from decision. How? They seek data. They build frameworks. They have mentors. They practice exposure therapy. Small risks build tolerance. The more risks I took, calculated ones, the more emotionally comfortable I became with uncertainty. That comfort is a millionaire's superpower. The danger of playing too safe. Here's what nobody tells you. Playing safe is often the riskiest move. The employee who never builds outside income streams. The business owner who never innovates. The investor who keeps all cash in savings. The entrepreneur who avoids new markets. Safety is an illusion that keeps people small. Millionaires know. Wealth lives outside your comfort zone. Risk is the price of growth. Avoiding risk guarantees stagnation. Every major wealth move I've made started with controlled discomfort. Calculated leverage. Risk becomes more powerful with leverage. Leverage means multiplying your upside, other people's time, hiring, teams, other people's money, capital, financing, technology, automation, systems, audience, social platforms, email lists, reputation, brand equity. Each layer of leverage makes the same risk produce outsized results. I didn't just take risks with my own effort. I built systems where risk and reward multiplied through leverage. The exit plan principle. One thing millionaires always build: exit plans. Before entering any risky venture, I ask, how can I exit profitably? How can I exit safely if it fails? What's my timeline for reevaluation? Having clear exit plans makes risk survivable and scalable. In business partnerships, in real estate deals, in joint ventures, in marketing campaigns, clarity reduces fear. Case study. My biggest risk that paid off. Let me give you one real story. I was offered a chance to buy into a struggling business at 40% equity. The founder was burned out. The business was barely profitable. The brand had potential but weak operations. Everyone told me not to do it. But when I ran my risk framework, worst case, lose my investment, which I could afford. Probability: 30% chance of failure. Mitigation: I could control operations directly. Recovery, my main business would continue unaffected. Upside, brand could 10x in value. I pulled the trigger. Within 18 months, revenue tripled. We exited for 7x my original investment. That one deal accelerated my net worth dramatically. Strategic risk. Not reckless risk. Hashtag teaching my team to think this way. As my wealth grew, I realized something important. You don't build real wealth alone. I began teaching my team the same risk frameworks. How to evaluate new markets. How to pitch safe but aggressive ad strategies. How to build offers with maximum upside, minimum downside. A team that thinks in strategic risk terms becomes a wealth-building machine. Hashtag the final word on strategic risk. If you only play safe, you'll stay small. If you gamble recklessly, you'll eventually lose it all. Millionaires master the space between strategic, calculated, controlled risk. Small bets. Big upsides. Scalable leverage. Clear exit plans. Emotional detachment. Constant reevaluation. This is where real wealth is built. In the next part, we'll dive into one of the millionaire habits that most people ignore entirely: energy mastery. Why millionaires manage their energy like billion-dollar assets. Because without energy, all your skills, strategies, and plans collapse. If money is the currency of the marketplace, and skills are the tools of wealth building, then energy is the fuel that powers everything. I didn't always understand this. For years I was obsessed with working longer hours, grinding late into the night, burning weekends, pushing my limits. And yes, I made some progress. But I was constantly exhausted. My thinking was foggy. My decision-making was slower. My emotions were unstable. My creativity was dying. And slowly, I started to see something the top millionaires lived by: energy is your most valuable resource. When you manage your energy like a billionaire manages capital, your productivity skyrockets, your creativity unlocks, and your wealth compounds faster than you ever thought possible. Hashtag the day I hit the wall. I remember the exact moment my body broke. I was juggling 2 businesses, scaling multiple projects, managing teams, trying to stay competitive. One morning I woke up, but my body didn't cooperate. My heart was racing. My mind was scattered. My chest felt heavy. My hands were shaking. I had pushed for years on willpower alone. That morning I realized, you cannot outperform a broken machine. From that point forward, I approached my energy with the same obsession I had for wealth. Hashtag the 3 types of energy millionaires manage. Most people only think of physical energy. Millionaires operate across 3 critical levels. 1. Physical energy, the foundation. 2. Mental energy, the operating system. 3. Emotional energy, the fuel of decision-making. Each one is non-negotiable. Each one feeds the others. Each one can be optimized. Let's break them down. Hashtag physical energy, the foundation. Without physical energy, everything collapses. Here's what I changed. Keycap 1. Sleep mastery. I used to brag about getting by on 4 to 5 hours. Now, non-negotiable 7 to 8 hours nightly. Consistent sleep schedule. Cold, dark, silent room. No screens 60 minutes before bed. Magnesium and melatonin when needed. Aura ring to track quality. When my sleep improved, my productivity tripled. Keycap 2. Nutrition as fuel. I stopped eating for pleasure. I started eating for performance. High protein intake. Complex carbs for stable energy. Healthy fats for brain function. Zero processed sugar. Minimal alcohol. Hydration as a daily discipline, at least 3 liters/day. I saw my focus, energy, and mood stabilize permanently. Keycap 3. Strength and conditioning. Millionaires train their bodies like elite athletes. Resistance training 4-5x weekly. Functional movement to prevent injury. Cardiovascular conditioning. Daily stretching or mobility work. Walking after meals to control glucose. My workouts became non-negotiable business appointments. A strong body equals a strong business. Keycap 4 Recovery Rituals. Growth doesn't happen during work, it happens during recovery. Sauna 3x weekly. Cold exposure for nervous system reset. Deep tissue massage bi-weekly. Scheduled unplugged days. Breathing protocols for parasympathetic balance. The better I recovered, the harder I could push. Hashtag mental energy. The operating system. Mental fatigue kills more millionaires than market crashes. Here's how I built cognitive stamina. Keycap 1 Information control. Your mind is only as sharp as what you feed it. Zero news consumption. Curated information diet. Only follow mentors, thought leaders, and strategic sources. Daily deep reading, minimum 30 minutes. I stopped consuming garbage, and my thinking upgraded permanently. Keycap 2 Cognitive load management. I eliminated decision fatigue. Same morning routine daily. Simplified wardrobe. Automated business systems. Delegated low-level tasks to assistants. Scheduled focused work blocks. Every unnecessary decision drained power I needed for real strategy. Keycap 3 Daily deep work windows. 3 to 4 hours of uninterrupted creation time. Phone off. No meetings. Zero distractions. Noise-canceling headphones. One clear task. Millionaires buy back their thinking time. Keycap 4 Regular mental reset. Weekly nature escapes. Monthly digital detox weekends. Quarterly solo reflection retreats. Every time I reset, I return sharper, faster, clearer. Hashtag emotional energy. The fuel of decision-making. Most people lose wealth not because of bad logic, but because of emotional volatility. Millionaires master their internal state. Keycap 1 Emotional regulation. Daily meditation, 20 minutes. Journaling frustrations. Stoic philosophy study. Emotional check-ins before making big decisions. I refuse to make major moves from fear, anger, or desperation. Keycap 2 Relationship management. Toxic relationships drain wealth-building energy. Ruthlessly curate your circle. Distance from energy vampires. Build tight alliances with ambitious, positive, growing people. Your environment feeds your emotional state. Keycap 3 Purpose-driven work. Without deep personal purpose, burnout is inevitable. I ask myself weekly, am I aligned with my long-term mission? Does this work serve my bigger vision? Am I building something meaningful? Purpose fuels resilience. Hashtag the energy bank account. I started thinking of my energy like a bank account. Everything I do either deposits or withdraws. My job is to keep the balance growing. Deposits. Sleep, nutrition, training, recovery, positive people, focused work, withdrawals. Stress, distractions, toxic relationships, overcommitment, poor boundaries. The wealthiest people protect their energy balance ruthlessly. Hashtag the cost of energy debt. Operating in energy debt compounds negatively. Poor decisions. Emotional outbursts. Business mistakes. Health crashes. Reputation damage. I watched many entrepreneurs rise fast, only to burn out, break down, and disappear. Millionaires build systems to prevent the crash before it happens. Hashtag why most people ignore this. Energy mastery isn't sexy. It's not a hack. It doesn't produce instant dopamine. It requires daily disciplines that few sustain. But energy mastery creates what I call endless execution capacity. You simply outlast everyone else. You make better decisions longer. You build at a sustainable, compounding pace. And over years, this becomes unbeatable. Hashtag the energy wealth loop. Once I mastered my energy, I noticed a powerful feedback loop. More energy, more execution, more income, more options, better recovery, even more energy. The loop fed itself. Wealth accelerated. Peace increased. Complexity simplified. Leadership elevated. Hashtag the final word on energy mastery. Millionaires don't just work harder. They protect their energy like billion-dollar hedge funds protect capital. Physical, mental, emotional. Every single day. Your energy is the root system that supports the entire tree of your wealth. Ignore it, and everything eventually collapses. Master it, and everything you build multiplies exponentially. In the next part, we'll dive into one of the most misunderstood millionaire habits: leveraging time. How millionaires escape the time for money trap forever, because without mastering time leverage, true freedom is impossible. For most of my life, I lived inside a trap I didn't even realize existed. It was invisible. It felt normal. And almost everyone around me lived in it too. The time for money trap. You work an hour. You get paid for that hour. You stop working. The income stops too. It's the default system for most of society, from hourly jobs to high-paid professionals. And in the beginning, it feels fine. You work harder. You make more. You feel productive. But eventually you hit the wall. You run out of hours. You burn out. Your income plateaus. One day, as I sat staring at my calendar completely packed for months ahead, the truth hit me. If I keep trading time for money, I will always be a slave, even if I'm a highly paid one. This is where millionaires separate from everyone else. Millionaires detach income from time. They escape the trap. They build machines that work without them. Let me take you inside exactly how I made this shift. Hashtag the first realization. You cannot scale hours. There are 24 hours in a day. You sleep 7. You eat 2. You commute, relax, handle life, another 2 to 3. Even if you work like a maniac, you're capped. Hours are finite. Leverage is infinite. Millionaires don't try to work more hours. They figure out how to make every hour produce exponentially more. Hashtag the types of time leverage millionaires use. I discovered that there are 5 core time leverage multipliers. 1. People leverage, delegation and teams. 2. System leverage, processes and automation. 3. Technology leverage, software and AI. 4. Asset leverage, money working for you. 5. Content leverage, one-to-many distribution. I'll break down exactly how I built each one. Keycap 1. Hashtag people leverage. Building teams. In the early days, I did everything: sales, marketing, customer service, operations, accounting. It worked until it didn't. I was burning out. Growth stalled. The first hire changed everything. An assistant took my admin tasks. A marketing freelancer handled campaigns. A bookkeeper managed finances. A sales rep closed deals. Every task I delegated bought back hours. Millionaires view payroll not as expense, but as time multiplication. If you hire someone for $20 per hour to free you up to focus on $200 per hour work, you're already winning. I slowly built layers: executive team, sales team, marketing team, operations managers, customer support. Suddenly, my business could grow while I slept. Keycap 2. Hashtag system leverage. Processes that run themselves. People need systems to operate. SOPs, standard operating procedures. Checklists. Onboarding flows. Training libraries. Every time I personally solved a problem, I documented it into a system my team could follow without me. The result? Fewer fires. Fewer questions. More consistency. More scalability. Millionaires turn personal knowledge into company-wide repeatable systems. Keycap 3. Hashtag technology leverage. Automation and AI software became my silent workforce. CRM systems tracked leads. Automated email sequences nurtured prospects. Scheduling software eliminated back and forth. Payment processors handled billing. AI tools accelerated content production, customer service, data analysis. Every tool saved dozens, sometimes hundreds, of hours monthly. The new era of AI now allows millionaires to scale faster than ever before. Content creation. Customer support bots. Market analysis. Sales funnel automation. Technology leverage compounds relentlessly. Keycap 4. Hashtag asset leverage. Money working for you. While my businesses grew, I funneled profits into real estate, dividend stocks, private equity deals, digital assets, courses, licenses, IP, These assets produced ongoing income without my direct effort. Millionaires don't spend income, they redeploy income into income-producing assets. Soon, my portfolio was generating tens of thousands monthly in passive cash flow, completely detached from my daily labor. Keycap 5 # Content Leverage. One-to-many communication, one of the most powerful leverage tools in history. Content. A single video can reach millions. A single article can attract leads for years. A single podcast can build authority worldwide. A single webinar can sell to thousands simultaneously. Millionaires scale their message beyond geography, beyond schedule, beyond personal bandwidth. My first YouTube channel became a silent salesman, generating leads, sales, and brand authority 24/7. Content leverage keeps working while you sleep. The 80-20 of time leverage. After studying this deeply, I built a simple rule. If I repeat a task more than twice, systemize or delegate it. I became ruthless. What only I could do, I kept. Everything else automated, delegated, or eliminated. This created exponential time freedom. The emotional battle of delegation. Delegating wasn't easy at first. Fear of losing control. Fear of mistakes. Fear of paying others when I could just do it myself. But those fears were killing my growth. I forced myself to adopt the millionaire belief. Pay others to buy back your time, then reinvest that time into higher leverage activities. Once I let go, the business scaled like never before. Shifting from worker to architect. Millionaires don't operate inside the machine. They design the machine. Designing offers. Designing systems. Designing teams. Designing client experiences. Designing partnerships. I stopped being the operator. I became the architect. This is the ultimate millionaire shift. The freedom formula. Here's the formula I live by today. Skills, systems, scale, freedom. Build high-value skills. Use those skills to create leveraged systems. Use those systems to scale income. Use scaled income to buy freedom. Without leverage, you're always capped. With leverage, your wealth becomes infinite. Why most never escape the trap. Most people stay trapped because they fear hiring. They resist systems. They avoid automation. They hate releasing control. They focus on saving pennies instead of multiplying dollars. Millionaires break these mental chains early. They understand. You will never earn freedom if you must always be present for income to flow. The ultimate outcome. Time freedom. When you fully leverage time, you control your schedule. You build wealth while traveling. You wake up to income that arrived while sleeping. You focus only on highest leverage decisions. You choose projects based on passion, not pressure. Time freedom is true wealth. It's what separates millionaires from the exhausted. The final word on time leverage. Your most limited resource is time. Millionaires build empires not by having more time, but by learning how to multiply every hour they have. Through people. Through systems. Through technology. Through assets. Through content. Master leverage, and your wealth grows while your hours shrink. In the next part, we'll break into the most uncomfortable millionaire habit of all, radical adaptability. How millionaires thrive in chaos while others collapse. Because wealth is never built in straight lines, it's built by those who master change. If there's one habit that saved my wealth more times than I can count, it's this: radical adaptability. See, most people love stability. They crave routines that never change. They want predictable markets, predictable income, predictable life. But wealth building doesn't live in stability. Wealth is born and multiplied inside chaos. Market crashes. Industry shifts. Competitor moves. Global crises. Technological revolutions. Most people break under these conditions. Millionaires adapt fast. The illusion of stability. In my early career, I used to believe the myth. Once I get stable, everything will be safe. Stable job. Stable income. Stable savings. But stability itself is a dangerous trap. Because while you're stable, Everything around you keeps changing. New technologies, new competitors, new regulations, new consumer behaviors, global shocks. What feels stable is actually fragile. Adaptability is the new stability. The adaptability moment that changed my life, the first major industry shift I faced, nearly destroyed me. My first business model was heavily dependent on a single platform. The platform changed its algorithm. My leads dried up overnight. My revenue collapsed by 60% in one quarter. I was panicking. But one of my mentors said something I'll never forget. You can either protect what's dying, or pivot to what's growing. In that moment, I made a rule that now governs my wealth. Stay married to your mission, but date your methods. Your purpose doesn't change, but your tactics must evolve constantly. #How millionaires train adaptability. I began studying how wealthy people adapt faster than others. They operate by a few key principles. Keycap 1 # Speed of information. Millionaires consume different information than the masses. Industry trend reports, private mastermind insights, direct customer feedback, high-level data sources, cutting-edge thought leaders. While the average person reads headlines, millionaires read signals. I built private intelligence networks, paid mastermind groups, exclusive communities, direct relationships with industry leaders. Early information equals early adaptation. Keycap 2 # Bias for action. Most people overanalyze during uncertainty. Millionaires move fast. Imperfect action beats perfect hesitation. When a new platform emerged, I tested it. When consumer behaviors shifted, I adjusted my offers. When regulations changed, I pivoted my legal structures. Speed compounds wealth. Keycap 3 # Scenario planning. Millionaires don't just react, they forecast. What if sales drop 30%? What if my ad platform shuts down? What if interest rates spike? What if my key supplier disappears? I built if-then playbooks for dozens of scenarios. Hope is not a plan. Scenarios are. Prepared minds adapt faster under pressure. Keycap 4 # Multiple business models. One of the biggest lessons I learned. Single source income is financial suicide. I diversified my businesses. Built multiple income streams. Spread client types across industries. Developed offers that worked across markets. When one stream slowed, others sustained. Diversification creates optionality. Keycap 5 # Technological curiosity. Most people resist new technology. Millionaires embrace it early. I studied AI years before the masses. I leveraged automation before it was trendy. I tested new platforms before they were mainstream. Early adoption created massive competitive advantages. Technology is not your enemy, it's your leverage. Keycap 6 # Emotional detachment from methods. One of the hardest lessons. Don't fall in love with how you make money. I watched entrepreneurs cling to dying models, outdated products, fading platforms, failing partnerships. Millionaires know when to pivot. I retired profitable offers when the market shifted. I shut down business divisions that lost momentum. I rebranded companies when industries evolved. Adaptability often requires killing your own past success. Keycap 7 # Building adaptable teams. You cannot adapt alone. I hired flexible thinkers. I trained my leadership team to run scenario drills. I built a culture of innovation, not comfort. Every person on my team is expected to spot trends, bring solutions, challenge old models. Rigid teams break. Adaptable teams scale. Keycap 8 # Operating with optionality. Millionaires always create options. Multiple suppliers. Multiple marketing channels. Multiple funding sources. Multiple strategic partners. Multiple growth pathways. Options reduce panic. When COVID hit, many businesses died. Because we had optionality, my companies pivoted online, shifted delivery models, launched new products, surged while competitors collapsed. Keycap 9 Hashtag Personal Adaptability Habits. I trained myself to stay mentally flexible, daily learning, challenging my own beliefs, surrounding myself with diverse thinkers, constantly testing assumptions, practicing mental simulations for worst-case scenarios. Adaptable minds create adaptable wealth. Hashtag 10 Psychological Ownership of Chaos. Here's the ultimate mental shift. Chaos is normal. Predictability is the illusion. Most people fear uncertainty. Millionaires expect it and capitalize on it. When markets shake, millionaires get richer, buying distressed assets, acquiring struggling competitors, negotiating powerful deals. While others freeze, they move. Hashtag how I applied this in my wealth journey in the last 10 years. I've adapted through 3 major platform algorithm changes, 2 global financial disruptions, multiple industry technology shifts, internal leadership turnovers, shifting client expectations. Each adaptation made me richer. Every storm is a wealth transfer, from the rigid to the adaptable. Hashtag adaptability is a daily practice. This isn't a one-time mindset. Every day I ask, what trend is emerging? What's likely to break soon? What backup plans do I need? Where am I becoming too comfortable? Comfort kills wealth. Adaptability multiplies it. Hashtag the final word on radical adaptability. Millionaires don't survive chaos. They thrive in it. Because they expect change. Prepare for change. Move fast. Detach from outdated methods. Constantly learn. Build multiple pathways. See chaos as opportunity. Wealth flows to those who adapt the fastest. Adaptability is the ultimate competitive advantage. In the next part, we'll dive into the habit that locks all of this together. Legacy thinking. How millionaires build wealth that lasts generations, because wealth isn't just about what you make. If you've followed me on this entire journey, you already know how I broke free from mediocrity. How I rewired my mind like the millionaires I studied. How I built skills, leveraged time, embraced risk, mastered energy, and adapted through chaos. But there's one final habit that pulls all of it together. And most people never get here. Legacy thinking. Because real wealth isn't about how much you make in your lifetime. Real wealth is about what survives you. What compounds after you're gone. What impact echoes for generations. Hashtag the day legacy hit me hard. It was a random Sunday morning. I was reviewing my financial statements, my businesses, my investments, feeling proud of how far I'd come. And then my daughter, just 5 years old, came and sat beside me, curious. "Daddy, what is all that?" she asked. At that moment, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything I was building wasn't really for me anymore. I was building something she would inherit, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. What will she inherit that's more valuable than money? That question reshaped everything. Hashtag the truth about generational wealth. Most people think generational wealth is trust funds, real estate portfolios, stock investments, inheritance money. But money alone rarely survives multiple generations. Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The first generation builds it. The second maintains it. The third often destroys it. Why? Because money without wisdom decays. True legacy is built on values, habits, beliefs, skills, structures. Millionaires who last focus on both sides. Financial capital plus human capital. Hashtag the 3 pillars of legacy thinking. Through years of mentorship and personal experience, I built my legacy strategy on 3 pillars. Keycap 1 Preserve wealth. Keycap 2 Transfer wisdom. Keycap 3 Multiply impact. Let's break each one down. Keycap 1 Hashtag preserve wealth. Protecting the empire. Making millions is hard. Keeping millions is harder. I focused heavily on legal structures, trusts, LLCs, holding companies, tax efficiency, international planning, estate tax strategies, asset protection, insurance layers, diversification, financial discipline, spending rules, reinvestment mandates. Every dollar I protect today extends my legacy tomorrow. The empire I build should be hard to destroy. I built what my attorneys call the financial fortress. A system where my businesses keep running. My investments keep compounding. My family's lifestyle stays secure. My heirs inherit both income streams and protection structures. Keycap 2 # transfer wisdom. Teaching the next generation wealth without wisdom creates entitlement. I refuse to let my children grow up soft. I began legacy education early, weekly money conversations, business simulation games, entrepreneurship challenges, accountability systems, exposure to my real operations. If they can't manage $10 wisely, they won't manage $10 million wisely. We also built the family playbook, a document that outlines our family mission, our values, our rules for wealth, our giving philosophy, our long-term vision. This playbook will be updated annually and eventually serve as a guide long after I'm gone. Keycap 3 # multiply impact. Beyond personal wealth, legacy isn't just about family. It's about contribution. I built giving structures into my wealth plan, donor-advised funds, private family foundations, scholarship programs, impact investments in causes I believe in. The world is better because I built wealth. True legacy leaves communities, industries, and nations better than you found them. This impact becomes self-sustaining. Investments fund education. Education produces new leaders. Leaders build new wealth. Wealth funds further impact. The cycle continues, long beyond your lifetime. # the legacy decision filter. Every major wealth decision now runs through my legacy filter. Will this last? Does this build or destroy character? Does this serve my family's long-term mission? Does this contribute to the world? If it fails the filter, I don't do it. # the legacy skills stack. I also focused on teaching my children skill stacks, not just giving them money. Financial literacy, sales, negotiation, public speaking, leadership, adaptability, risk management, health mastery, relationship building. Give your heirs tools, not crutches. Tools create independence. Crutches create dependency. # the silent legacy. Few think about. Most people forget the most powerful legacy: reputation. How you conduct business. How you treat employees. How you honor contracts. How you speak about competitors. How you contribute to your community. Your name becomes an asset, or a liability, for your descendants. A respected name opens doors even after you're gone. I've seen wealthy families whose money couldn't protect them from a ruined family name. Protect your reputation like you protect your capital. # the legacy timelines I work with. I plan in 3 horizons, 25-year horizon. Personal career wealth growth. 50-year horizon, family and children's wealth structures. 100-year horizon, foundations, trusts, and societal impact. Legacy thinkers build dynasties, not just businesses. # the emotional shift of legacy thinking. Something powerful happens when you think in legacy terms. You stop chasing temporary wins. You make higher quality decisions. You attract better partners. You operate with patience and long-term confidence. You become far harder to shake emotionally. When you plant trees you'll never sit under, you think differently. # why most entrepreneurs never reach legacy thinking. Most people stay trapped in monthly revenue obsession, yearly tax avoidance, vanity metrics, lifestyle inflation. Millionaires who last move beyond ego, status games, immediate gratification. They anchor to something bigger. # the final word on legacy thinking. You can build income. You can build wealth. You can even build empires. But real fulfillment comes from knowing what you build will serve others long after you're gone. That's what the greatest millionaires have done for centuries. Now it's your turn. This completes our full audiobook journey. Keys to developing habits of successful millionaires. You now have the mindset, the systems, the skills, the habits, the frameworks, the legacy vision. Wealth is not an accident. It's a discipline. Build it. Protect it. Multiply it. And one day, someone will thank you for planting the seeds you never saw bloom.